Call the Minister for Home Affairs and Justice.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. In May 2010, I met a young bloke called Joshua. I ran a job expo up on the Central Coast when I was the Parliamentary Secretary for Employment. Joshua was a young bloke. He'd left school when he was 16 and he'd never had a job. He'd never had a job in 4 years. He got a job that day at that job expo. The job he got that day was working at the Ali Barber shop in Tuggerah, Westfields. He was off. He got a start after being unemployed for 4 years. And I remember talking to his mum a few weeks after that, and she told me that he was a different boy, that he was a different person after he got a job after being unemployed for 4 years. I checked up on Joshua just the other day. He's now moved out of home and he's now got another job. He's got a full-time job. He's now working as a security guard, so he's on his way. This is just one story, just one job. Since this government has come to office, we've created 700,000 jobs, 700,000 stories that are just like that. Now, the member for North Sydney made some comparisons. He invited us to compare the record of this government and the former government, and I'm happy to take up the challenge. The fact is that this government has seen the creation of 700,000 more people getting a job than when the Liberal Party was last in power. Look at the topic of income tax. Income taxes are lower now than they were under the Liberal Party. Someone who's on $50,000 a year, someone who earns 50 grand a year, is now paying almost 20% less in tax than when we came to office. The member for North Sydney also talked about interest rates. Interest rates are also lower now than when the Liberals left office. It certainly is true. It certainly is true.
Member for Goldstein does not have the call. The Minister will be heard in silence. The cash rate, Deputy Speaker, would have to go up 10 times before they get back to where the Liberal Party left them. And if you want proof about what interest rates look like now compared to what they look like under you, then go no further than my electorate. In my electorate 4 years ago, when you were in office, when you were a minister, 60 families a month had their homes repossessed. That's something like 3 families a day lost their home. Today, with interest rates lower, with cash rates lower, that number is now in single figures. Single-figure numbers of people having their homes repossessed than what it was when you were a minister, when you were last in office. They are the facts. The Australian economy is now stronger compared to the rest of the world than ever before. And the strength of the Australian dollar is an indication of that. For the first time in our history, we have a AAA credit rating from all 3 credit agencies, something the great Liberal Party never achieved. Deputy Speaker, we are also a fairer country than we were 4 years ago. 4 years ago, more than 1 million workers had their wages or their entitlements cut by the Liberal Party's work choices legislation. We got rid of it. 4 years ago, pensioners received $148 less a fortnight than they do now. And 4 years ago, there was no such thing as paid parental leave. The Leader of the Opposition said at the time that it would happen over his dead body. Well, it did happen, and now new mothers get 18 weeks paid leave at the minimum wage. And now the next big reform to build a fairer country, the National Disability Insurance Scheme, that will provide lifetime care and support for the disabled. The sort of thing, Deputy Speaker, that only a Labor government would ever do. All of this because of this government, because of the action that we have taken. That's the difference that a Labor government makes. More jobs, a stronger economy and a fairer country. That's the story of the last 4 years. They would have been a very different 4 years if the Liberal Party had won the 2007 election. There are at least 2 things we can be certain of. They wouldn't have got rid of work choices, and they wouldn't have taken the action that we did to stop the global financial crisis. In other words, we would have had work choices and we would have had a recession. We would have had higher unemployment and lower wages. And they have the gall to come in here and have a debate about jobs. If we had taken the action that they proposed, unemployment now would be more like it is in the United States. Unemployment in my electorate in Western Sydney would have been something like 15 or 16%. And a generation of people across the country would have suffered. It would have taken us 5, maybe 10 years to get unemployment back to where it is now. So it's worth remembering what the opposition leader said in his first major economic speech, a speech made a couple of years ago called Economic Fundamentals, because this is what he said, quote, "The economic stimulus wasn't necessary to strengthen Australia's economy at a time of global recession." Now, this is the man who expects the people of Australia to put him in charge of a $1.4 trillion economy. And in his first major speech on the economy, he says the stimulus wasn't necessary to protect jobs, the stimulus wasn't necessary to stop us going out of recession, to avoid going into recession, that the stimulus wasn't necessary to protect Australia's economy. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is not the party of Howard and Costello anymore. It's now led by a man who Peter Costello says he wouldn't trust on economic matters, and with good reason. One day they say they're going to deliver a surplus, the next day they say they can't. Last year they promised tax cuts in their first term, we all remember that. Now they say that's not possible. A few months ago they admitted that they had a $70 billion black hole in their costings. Now they're denying it. It's all over the shop. All over the shop.
The member for Bradfield, the member for Kooyong,
I tell you this,
will listen in silence.
Peter Costello would have never made those sorts of mistakes, would never have made the sort of mistakes we're seeing from the member for Goldstein or the member for North Sydney or the Leader of the Opposition. No wonder they were so keen to get Senator Sinodinos into the parliament, someone from the Howard years who knows something about economics. Last week, the Leader of the Opposition in his party room told us that every time we talk about jobs, every time we talk about the economy, they're going to talk about carbon tax. In other words, the scare campaign continues. Well, Deputy Speaker, let's have a look at this scare campaign. Remember those bold predictions that we had last year? It was going to wipe Whyalla off the map. Well, this one, it was going to be the economic death of the steel industry. All nonsense, all not real. But my favourite one, the one that I always remember, is this one in June last year when the Leader of the Opposition said that the carbon price would be the death of the coal industry. Well, the best way to find out if this is the truth or not is to follow the money. Look at the investments that have been made in the coal industry since we announced the carbon price or since the Leader of the Opposition made those statements. Has it gone up or has it gone down? Well, according to the Bureau of Statistics, in the year to September, spending on coal exploration has jumped 167%. But it gets better than that. As I told the House,
Kooyong might be going if he's not careful.
As I told the House last year, 1 in 6 members of the opposition have bought shares in coal or resource companies since we announced the carbon price. And it's worth the House remembering who those members are. The member for Wentworth, Senator Adams, Senator Cash, Senator Fisher, Senator Humphries, the member for Stirling, the member for Brisbane, the member for Flynn, Senator Ronaldson, the member for Fadden, Senator Johnston, and the member for Kooyong.
Joshy's juggernaut. Got it. Smarter than we think.
all bought shares in coal or resource companies after the Leader of the Opposition said that the industry was going to die. Well, the member for Kooyong is a pretty smart man. When you look at this list, you think they're either stupid or they just don't believe what the Leader of the Opposition is saying. As Deep Throat said to Woodward, follow the money. Follow the money and you find the truth. But it gets better than that, Deputy Speaker, because a very interesting document was lodged on the last sitting day of last year. Senator Sinodinos, the new senator for New South Wales, lodged his statement of registrable interests. Now, as I said, Senator Sinodinos is an impressive man. He was John Howard's policy brain, his right-hand man. He came out of Treasury. He understands government. He also understands the private sector. Now, if there is ever anyone to test the argument of the Leader of the Opposition that this is going to kill the coal industry, it's Senator Sinodinos. And what does Senator Sinodinos' return tell us? Well, like his colleagues, like the member for Kooyong, he also owns shares in the resource sector. He also owns shares in the coal industry, in a coal company. But not only that. A month after the Leader of the Opposition told the country that this would be the death of the coal industry, Senator Sinodinos became the boss of a coal company. He became the chairman of Blackwood Coal, an Australian coal company based in Sydney. So there you have it, Deputy Speaker. While the brawn of the Liberal Party is running around the country saying this is going to kill the coal industry, you've got the brains of the Liberal Party becoming the boss of a coal company. It just goes to show what a bunch of hypocrites the Liberal Party really is. You've got the boss out there, the boss of the party, out there trying to scare everyone, tell people that this is going to be the death of the coal industry, whilst you've got all the rest of them out there buying shares in coal companies. And you've got the smartest one of all is actually running a coal company. Follow the money, Deputy Speaker. Follow the money and you find the truth. It just goes to show this opposition leader for what he is, because this Leader of the Opposition, his answer to everything, is either no or it's no idea. It's either no.
The member for Flynn may have an interview outside if he's not careful.
And Deputy Speaker, that's just not good enough. The people of Australia expect their government and expect their opposition to have plans for the future. They expect more than just a stop sign in a suit. And that's what they've got from this Leader of the Opposition. They need more than someone acting like a stop sign in a suit. They need more than that. They need more than a dodgy scare campaign. As Senator Sinodinos has shown, if you keep crying wolf, eventually you get found out.